20,000. That's how fast this thing spins. 20,000 revolutions every single minute. At that speed, the forces inside a motor don't just stress the metal, they try to unmake it. They pull outward with such violence that conventional materials don't warp slowly. They don't fatigue gradually. They explode. So when Tesla's engineers told management they wanted to build a motor that spun at speeds like that and put it inside a family sedan, the smart response would have been to say no. The laws of physics said no. A century of automotive engineering said no. Every rival company on Earth looked at the same numbers and quietly walked away. Tesla did it anyway, and when a veteran teardown engineer named Sandy Munro, a man who has dissected hundreds of engines from the world's best automakers, finally cut one open on his workbench, he stopped talking. He just kept staring at one detail wrapped around the spinning core. Because what he was looking at wasn't just better than everything else on the market. It was so far ahead that catching up might take rivals an entire decade. And the terrifying part? That's not the motor's most dangerous feature. To understand why this engine matters, you have to rewind to a version of this story most people have forgotten. For years, nobody believed Tesla would be the one to build it. When electric vehicles first began disrupting the auto industry, one company kept appearing at the front of the race, Tesla. But here's what most people forget. In the beginning, almost no one thought Tesla would stay there. The company looked ambitious, exciting, innovative, and also fragile. Standing next to giants like Ford, General Motors, Toyota, and Volkswagen, companies with generations of manufacturing experience, global production networks, and billions in engineering budgets, Tesla looked small, inexperienced, beatable. The smart money said it was only a matter of time before the real players caught up and pushed the upstart aside. And for a while, it looked like they would. Rival electric cars got better, more stylish, more reliable. Battery range climbed faster than predicted. Analysts openly forecast that Tesla's advantage was temporary, that the underdog had its moment, and now the giants would take the road back. Then something happened that nobody saw coming. Tesla introduced a breakthrough that quietly changed the pressure inside the entire industry. It wasn't a new car design. It wasn't a bigger battery. It wasn't a software update. It was an engine. And the engineers who took it apart kept arriving at the same uneasy conclusion. Tesla was no longer just leading. It had stepped onto ground most rivals couldn't currently reach. Here's the part most people miss. Tesla didn't build this engine from a position of strength. It built it from pressure. The Cybertruck, once sold to the world as the future of American transportation, had quietly become a problem. After years of global hype, sales came in far below expectations. The truck that was supposed to rule American driveways became one of the most talked about disappointments in the company's recent history. The numbers tell an uncomfortable story. Reports revealed that nearly 1 in every 5 Cybertrucks registered during one quarter went to companies connected to Elon Musk himself, including SpaceX and the AI venture xAI. Internal registrations were propping up the figures. Recalls were chipping away at consumer confidence. And in a market suddenly full of electric options, Tesla's loudest product wasn't pulling its weight. That matters more than it sounds. Tesla's entire reputation rests on the idea that anything it builds reshapes the category. The Cybertruck was supposed to be proof of that. Instead, it became a reminder that even Tesla can swing and miss. Musk knew it. The company built on inevitability suddenly looked vulnerable. So he needed something that couldn't be argued with, not a styling update, not a marketing moment. Something fundamental, the kind of advance that changes what is possible.
Ultimately, we can have a fully sustainable energy economy, and it's those three things: solar, wind, stationary battery pack, electric vehicle.
not just what is fashionable. Tesla raised its investment plans to more than $25 billion, channeling money into artificial intelligence, robotics, and chips. But the real answer was already being built in a quiet engineering bay, far from the Cybertruck headlines. It was spinning to life on a workbench, and it was about to break a rule everyone in the industry had accepted as permanent.
It's not really possible to make electric rockets, but you can make the propellant used in rockets using sustainable energy.
To understand why this engine sent a chill through the industry, you first have to accept one harsh truth about electric motor engineering. For years, the entire industry believed it was trapped by a painful compromise. An electric car could be fast and powerful, or it could be efficient and long-ranged. Doing both at the same time seemed almost impossible. Engineers would sit in design meetings and shrug. That was just how electric motors worked. It was treated less like a problem and more like a law of nature. Here's why. Whenever engineers pushed for higher performance, motors ran hotter, wasted more energy, and demanded massive cooling systems just to survive. Build for efficiency instead, and the car felt slow, missing the acceleration drivers actually wanted. Most companies decided the physics had drawn the line, so they stopped pushing on it and optimized around the edges, calling it progress. Tesla refused to accept the line. Its engineers went looking for a completely different path, and after years of development, they produced one of the most advanced electric drive units ever placed inside a consumer vehicle. At the center of it sat something that sounds almost simple, but is ferociously difficult to perfect: a carbon fiber-wrapped rotor. Here's why it matters. Inside every electric motor is a spinning component called the rotor. During normal operation, it spins at extraordinary speeds, and as those speeds climb, the forces inside turn savage. The faster it spins, the more the rotor behaves like it's trying to tear itself apart from the inside. Most conventional rotors physically cannot survive that. They warp, they crack, they cook themselves into scrap. Tesla found a way around it by wrapping the rotor in carbon fiber, a material famous for being both incredibly strong and incredibly light. The wrap acts like armor, holding the rotor together under forces that would destroy anything else. It's the same class of material trusted in aerospace and motorsport, applied here to one of the most punishing jobs in the entire vehicle. The result? This drive unit can spin at more than 20,000 revolutions per minute, a figure almost never seen in ordinary passenger vehicles. Speeds like that usually belong to specialized industrial machines, not luxury sedans you park in a suburban garage. Let that sit for a second. 20,000 revolutions per minute in a car you use to take your kids to school. But raw speed wasn't the real breakthrough. What made the design revolutionary was the control and stability it maintained at those extreme speeds. The carbon wrap tamed vibration, kept the rotor perfectly balanced, and that steadiness sharpened the magnetic performance, meaning more electrical energy converted into actual forward motion, instead of bleeding away as heat, noise, and waste. In a normal motor, a significant portion of the energy pulled from the battery is lost before it ever moves the car. Tesla figured out how to claw most of it back. Same battery, more range, more speed, less heat. And that last part, less heat, matters more than people realize. Cooling systems are heavy, expensive, and space-consuming. They steal room that could hold batteries, passengers, or cargo. A cooler-running motor means less weight, fewer parts, fewer failure points, and more usable range from the same pack. Every rival has to bolt on pumps, radiators, and coolant lines just to keep their motors from destroying themselves under hard driving. Tesla quietly deleted a huge portion of that engineering headache. The world saw the full force of this in the Tesla Model S Plaid. 3 motors, over 1,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. For most of automotive history, a number like that belonged exclusively to race cars and exotic machines worth many times the price. The Plaid outran hypercars worth millions. And the almost unbelievable part? It's still a comfortable family sedan, one that can carry 5 people hundreds of miles on a single charge. A grocery getter that accelerates like a missile. This is the kind of result that keeps rival engineers awake at night. Building a fast car is one thing. Building a fast car that is also efficient, also comfortable, and also something a normal family can live with every day, that breaks the rule everyone agreed could never be broken. And here is where the story becomes genuinely uncomfortable for every other automaker on the planet.
The RPM is so crazy that just the centrifugal force wants to expand the rotor. So the carbon overwrap actually holds the rotor, basically holds the rotor together.
Knowing the design isn't enough. You have to execute it perfectly at massive scale. Carbon fiber wrapping at production volume is a manufacturing nightmare. The carbon fiber arrives as a delicate, pre-impregnated tape. It has to be wound around the rotor under exact, unwavering tension, then cured under precise heat and pressure until it sets into a single, rigid shell. Wind it slightly too loose and the rotor flexes and fails at speed. Wind it too tight and the fibers crack. Misjudge the temperature or timing during curing and the entire part is scrap. Then every finished rotor has to be balanced to a tolerance that most factories never have to think about. Because a wobble that would be invisible at highway speeds becomes a violent, self-destructing vibration at 20,000 revolutions per minute. A rival cannot simply photograph the part and reproduce it. They have to rebuild the entire manufacturing process from scratch, line by line, failure by failure, eating the cost of every ruined rotor along the way. That is years of pain Tesla has already paid for. Everyone else is just opening the bill. Some analysts suggest matching this manufacturing capability could take close to a decade, and by the time rivals arrive, Tesla will already be somewhere else entirely. Here's the number that should make competitors sweat. Tesla is engineering its next-generation drive units, built around this same carbon-sleeved rotor, to cost approximately $1,000 to produce. The entire unit, motor, electronics, gearbox. Some competitors spend 3 to 5 times that amount just to reach similar performance. Think about what that gap means at scale. If a rival spends $4,000 on every drive unit it ships, and Tesla spends $1,000, that $3,000 difference multiplies across hundreds of thousands of vehicles per year. That is the kind of margin that quietly funds entire new product lines while competitors are still trying to break even. Tesla can cut prices, win buyers, and still profit in markets where rivals are actively losing money. And it gets worse. Tesla is working to remove rare earth materials from its motors, breaking its dependence on costly supply chains concentrated in China. It's redesigning its electronics to use less expensive silicon carbide without sacrificing efficiency. One by one, it's pulling out the exact choke points its competitors are still being squeezed by. The cycle this creates is almost unfair to describe. Lower costs allow lower prices. Lower prices attract more buyers. More buyers increase production volume. Higher volume builds more manufacturing experience. More experience cuts costs further. Repeat, faster, harder. Every rival is chasing a target that keeps accelerating away from them. Most people still think of Tesla as a car company. That assumption may be the most expensive mistake the entire auto industry has ever made. Tesla has fused multiple industries into one self-reinforcing machine. And the carbon sleeve drive unit sits at the center of it, feeding everything else. More efficient, cheaper motors mean more Teslas on the road. More Teslas generate more real-world driving data. More data trains smarter AI systems. Smarter AI makes autonomous driving more valuable. More valuable vehicles attract more buyers. More buyers fund better hardware. Better hardware produces the next engine. The loop closes on itself and gains speed with every revolution. Meanwhile, Tesla's supercharger network has become so dominant that rival automakers, Ford, General Motors, adopted Tesla's charging standard so their own customers could use it. Tesla's competitors now depend on Tesla's infrastructure to keep their own drivers happy. And Tesla profits every time a rival car draws power from one of its stalls. That is not competition. That is ecosystem dominance, with rivals paying tolls on a road Tesla built. So here is where we land. The carbon fiber-wrapped rotor is not just an engineering achievement. It is a signal, a quiet warning hidden inside a motor on an engineer's workbench that the rules everyone agreed to play by no longer apply. The executives at Ford, General Motors, Volkswagen, Toyota, Lucid, and Rivian have all seen the teardown by now. They're looking at the same object you just heard about. And the ones who truly understand what they're seeing, they're not sleeping because they've realized they're not behind on one product. They're behind on the foundation every future product will be built on top of. There is no quick fix for that. You cannot buy your way out overnight. You can only try to build something equivalent from scratch. While Tesla already has a decade of practice, the factory's running, and the data compounding. By the time you arrive, the target has moved again. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think this engine truly ends the electric vehicle war? Or is the competition far from finished? Can any company, BYD, Volkswagen, a dark horse we haven't talked about, actually close this gap in the next decade? Or has it simply grown too wide? Drop your honest take in the comments. The best debates always come from this community, and I read everyone. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it helps more people find this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. There is a lot more coming on the companies and technologies quietly reshaping the world. And the next one is one you genuinely do not want to miss.